No. Welcome everybody to our Story Circle Network webinar on your best you on Zoom. We have Susan Tweit with us today, who is a beloved member of Story Circle Network and has already presented one webinar for us. And she is an award-winning author, speaker, and teacher who spends, I think, a fair amount of time on Zoom as it is. She is a plant biologist by trade and a writer at this point, very much by trade. She's written 12 books, and her latest book, memoir, will be released, that's number 13, on April 27th. So please go to, not yet, but in the next couple of days, to Susan's website, and you'll see about her book launch, which will be May 6th. And she hasn't had quite enough time to. She's been out riding horses, so no time to put that on her website for a couple of days. Her upcoming book is entitled Bless the Birds, Living with Love in a Time of Dying. And the reviews so far are spectacular. So congratulations on that, Susan. One of the things that we're going to do, there will be sections in terms of the webinar. So there'll be time after that section for questions. And then we have Elizabeth Beatty here, who happens to be my daughter. She's also the program director for Story Circle Network. And she will be the voice, the hidden voice for the questions and so what we'd like you to do is write your questions in the chat box or in the question and answer box. And we will look at those. Liz will read at the appropriate time. She will read those questions to Susan, and then Susan can answer. Okay. All right, Susan, with that, we're going to go away and we're going to let you take it away.
All right. Thank you, Lynn, and thank you, Liz. And thanks to Story Circle Network for sponsoring these webinars. I'm just delighted to be here with all of you. And thanks for joining us for this webinar this afternoon. I'm laughing because Liz still hasn't figured out how to turn off her video sharing, but she's going to. So good afternoon, good evening, whatever time zone you're in. I'm Susan Tweit, as Len said, and we're here to talk about how to be your best you on Zoom. And that is not makeup and things like that. That's about deciding who you want to present when you're on Zoom or any other video kind of platform, and how to present that you in a way that you come across as the kind of presenter you want to come across as. In my case, I want to be warm and friendly. And so I will just say right now, what you're looking at is me sitting in front of my kitchen, because the kitchen is the heart of the home from my point of view. That is a warm and friendly and accessible background for me. So that's why you're seeing my kitchen behind me. Also, I like my kitchen. So I have other parts to my house that I use as different backgrounds when I want to come across in different ways, less approachable, more formidable, more professional, whatever. I like the kitchen background because it's very much me. I like to cook, I like food, I like plants. So you're getting me in front of my kitchen. So let's talk first about who you want to present on whatever video platform you're presenting on. Before you first let's talk about a few housekeeping things. Sorry, I forgot that. This is a hands-on webinar. So I hope you have your phone nearby and that you know what selfie mode is on your phone, on the photo part of your phone. And I'd like you to be able to at least have that there. And this picture here, I have an iPhone, and the red arrow points to the button when you pull up the phone, the camera icon on your phone. The red arrow points to the button you have to click on an iPhone to put it in selfie mode, which is the mode where the front-facing camera is looking at you, because we're going to use that to test out some things about background and lighting and that kind of thing. It would also be great if you can move your computer or tablet around a little bit just to see how your video image changes as you do that. But at the very least, I'd love to have you have your phone and have it in selfie mode. Also, as Len said, we're time limited, so I'd like it if you can hold your questions and comments until the breaks, and there'll be 4 breaks in the webinar because we have sort of 4 sections to cover, so we can keep the webinar moving along. And you want to post your questions and comments in the chat window, and Liz will then relay them to me at the breaks in the webinar. So hope that's clear. On we go to who you want to present. From my point of view, before you ever turn on your video camera on a Zoom presentation or any video platform, you need to think about which you want to present. And by that, I mean, in my case, am I the writer? Am I the teacher? Am I the mom of a stepdaughter? Am I the horsewoman whose partner is here with 4 horses for her to ride all month, and I've been playing hooky all the time riding? Am I the scientist out in the field doing field work? Which me is the me that I'm presenting in this webinar? And how I set up myself for the webinar will be determined by which me I want to present. So think about which of yourselves, and we all have multiple selves, you want to present, and whether your mood is going to be strictly professional, all business, or whether your mood is going to be you're appealing to readers or to clients and you want to be kind of the warm, approachable professional, whether you're on a Zoom call with friends and you just want to be relaxed and on your couch with a glass of wine in your hand. Think about who you are, and that will determine something about the background, the lighting, the audio, what you wear, and of course, what you'll say. And if you have that thought out before you turn the video camera on, it's a good idea. Works better that way. Because when you're on a video, what viewers see might be the only you they ever see. So you want them to get the impression that you're aiming for, and you want it to be your best one. Okay. As an example of that, here are some of my me's. The vertical picture on the left is me with my dear friend and fellow author Don Wink at a writing conference, and we'd just finished presenting a seminar on writing about place as character. And the photographer for the conference wanted to take a picture of us. And she said, well, let me get one of the screenshots from your presentation in the background, which was great. She got it behind me, but you'll notice that what's behind Dawn is a blank seminar room wall with some funny wood borders. Not as good. So being able to think about what's behind you and what you're showing is pretty important. On the top right, that's the scientist me in Yellowstone doing some of my field work. And that's a selfie. Literally, I'm holding my camera out at my arm's length, which isn't very far. And I have on my ugly fieldwork bill cap and my fieldwork pile hoodie and all that stuff with sagebrush behind me because my research is about big sagebrush. So great picture for a scientist talking about her field area. Not so great for presenting yourself on Zoom because of the lighting, but that's something we'll talk about later. And the picture in the lower right is me playing hooky on horseback. I'm literally sitting on one of our horses who is not holding still while I'm doing this. I'm riding without reins. I'm riding with my knees and no reins. And she is actually foxtrotting, and I'm trying to take a selfie, which is why I look like I'm about to burst out laughing. Also not maybe the you want to present on Zoom unless you're doing a clinic on foxtrotters and their paces. So think about who you want to present before you ever turn on the video camera. First thing to think about is what's behind me right now, background. And by that, I don't mean your resume. I mean, what shows up in the background of your video stream once you turn on the camera. And as I've said, for me right now, I like having my kitchen as my background. It's full of wood. It's got warm lighting. It's just a comfortable background. It's not too distracting, although it would have helped if I'd cleaned off the counters a little better, but I didn't. That for me is a good teaching background. But think about what's behind you right now. And the easiest way to see that is to pick up your phone and, phone, and then click on your selfie camera and hold that camera approximately where your camera on your computer is, and look at what you see in that frame. I'm hiding behind my phone now to show you how to do it. So do that right now. Let's all pick up our phones, turn them on selfie mode, and look at what's around and behind you in your background. Is it what you want? If not, we have some tips about that. So just move that phone around, and look in all the corners, look around, and I will point out something in my background. Do you see what's right there? That is actually a kitchen island that's white with some distracting colors in it. If I was being really picky about my background, I would move myself over a little so that my shoulder covers that. So there's not quite so much distraction in the background behind me. See what happened there? So as you pick up your phone and move it around, look at what you're showing off. Look at what literally is in your background. Look for the distracting things. Look at the backlighting. Are you backlit? Is there, as there is behind me, there's a window. You see that window back there? It's got a blind pulled down on it so that I won't be backlit. So there's no bright light behind me that throws my face into shadow, because we want to show our faces when we're presenting on Zoom, unless we're presenting, about Gothic horror novels or Silence of the Lambs or something like that, in which case maybe we don't. But generally, we want our faces to be what's visible. Here's another thing. Is there too much ceiling? So look at what happens if I slant my camera upward. Suddenly you see the loft area of my house, which is not really what I want to show off. But as I pull it down, you see what happens. You see more of me and less ceiling. Is there a bunch of blank wall? Are there weird shaped objects? Are there personal details that maybe you don't want to reveal? I mean, obviously, most of us have already thought about not having our personal laundry hanging around. It's less obvious when we're in, say, an office setting or in our personal writing space. And maybe we have photos and other items that maybe we don't want to make public on Zoom. So again, look around and make sure that what's in your background are things you're comfortable showing off. And just one comment, we all know the bookshelf. There's a whole bookshelf thing on Zoom, and a lot of writers especially have bookshelves behind them, and that's fine, but maybe isn't necessarily the most creative thing to have behind you, and maybe you don't want your viewers to be looking at your titles. So think creatively beyond the bookshelf, beyond the blank wall, and think about what your background reveals about the person you want to project. All right, here's some no-nos. The tall photo, the vertical photo, is me in my office upstairs in the loft, having just come in from a horseback ride, so I haven't brushed my hair or anything, and we just won't talk about that right now. But my office desk is actually in a window embrasure in my loft with slanted ceilings, and what's behind it on the other side of the loft is one of my guest bedrooms. So if I just sat myself at my desk up there, what you would see is the very weird shaped fan in the ceiling, that black object over my head, which looks like a UFO hovering, not such a great view. And then a bed with pillows, also not such a great view. So that's not going to be my background for most of my Zoom calls because of that, because of what is behind me on the other side of my loft. I love my office. It has a great view, about 60 miles of desert and mountain ranges in the distance, but it's not the best background for Zoom. So I don't do Zooms in my office very often. Top right is, again, Dawn and I, and the point of that is to see what's over her shoulder. You see ceiling and you see wall and some weird wood things, and it's just kind of a distracting background. My bookshelves up in my office wouldn't make a great background either, because I literally am in a loft with slanted ceilings. So to have a bookshelf behind me, I'd have this weird big expanse of ceiling and then an angular bookshelf. Also not a great look, I think, for a Zoom backdrop. So all of those things go into Zooming. And let me say one other thing that I didn't mention as a tip. I am sitting at a table and I have my laptop up on a stack of books. And let's look at what will happen if I take it off and set it at basically desk height. Let's take the books away and we'll set it down. And you can see how the angle that you're seeing me at changes. If I set it down on the table, you're going to see mostly my chest and part of my head. So if I turn it up so you can see my face, suddenly you're seeing the ceiling above me. As soon as I raise my laptop and set it up on some books, then you get the view that you were looking at before. So my recommendation for you is whenever you're Zooming, make sure that your computer, if you can move it, is sitting on a stack of books or a box. File boxes work well for this, so that you're up, your camera is actually at face level, so you don't have to have the screen tinted radically back and see a bunch of your ceiling. Does that make sense? I hope. All right. I'm going to just angle me slightly differently. There we go. And go on to lighting. Lighting is a super biggie. I'm sure you've all sat in on webinars where some of the people in the webinar are backlit and their faces are in shadow, or the lighting is super bright and glary. It's not a really big deal to have good lighting. And I know this because I live, and I'm just going to keep this here. I live in a passive solar house, which means I have super bright sunlight for part of the day. And in fact, I am sitting facing my sunroom, which has 7 floor-to-ceiling windows. I have the blinds partially pulled down so that I'm in the Southwest, I'm in Santa Fe, so that that bright desert lighting doesn't come in and wash out my face and be really glary. I have above me a chandelier, modern kind of chandelier light, which I don't have on because it casts down light on me so that my face would be partly shadowed. So little things like that are stuff to think about as you do this. So check your lighting. And as an example, we have this great selfie of me again in Yellowstone, where I work in the summers, doing field work in the snow in June. And it's a great selfie, except that, look at, my eyes are totally in shadow because of my hood and the hat brim. So again, if I wanted to project myself as kind of a mysterious, obscure person, that would be fine. But if I want to be a teacher and I want you to be able to see my facial expressions and my eyes, I want you to connect with me. I don't want to have that happen. I want my lighting to be even on my face. I don't prefer it to show every year of my 64-year-old wrinkles, but this is who I am. But I want it to show me. I want to be evident. I want to have my facial expressions come across clearly. So let's look at our lighting in the same way we looked at our background. Put your phone in selfie mode, or just take a clear look at yourself on the Zoom screen and shift your phone around, shift your face around, see if the lighting changes. Feel free to get up. Take a moment, get up, turn a light on, turn a light off, just move around in your space with your phone in selfie mode or just looking at yourself on the Zoom screen and see how that lighting changes. And I will tell you that I could get up and pull all the blinds down in my sunroom, and I'm not going to do that because it takes me about 5 minutes, but it would change the lighting. It would still make it diffuse. What I will do is get up and turn the chandelier on and see if that makes any difference. I think probably not much because I have an actual video conference light on me right now. Nope, didn't change it very much. If I turn this off, how much is that going to change it? Well, let's see. Are you still playing with your lighting? Let's play with lighting for just a moment longer. No, it's not going to change it that much. We'll show you something in a moment. Okay, if everybody has played with their lighting, and I hope you see what I mean. And you know what? I forgot to do a break for questions on background. So let's just go back. Liz, were there questions on background?
Yes, we actually, oops, sorry.
Sorry, I was just
we were echoing. So we do have one question about virtual backgrounds.
Oh, and I meant to do that. So read me the question and we'll talk about that. Meant to cover that. Is it just generic what are virtual backgrounds, or?
Correct. Yeah, she just said, what about virtual backgrounds?
So here's my problem with virtual backgrounds. If you can find a virtual background that's not busy, and if you need to check, because 2 things. One is you don't want it super busy. And I was just on a big conference with 700 participants about using native plants in landscaping. And one of our presenters had a virtual background of, I I think it was prickly pear cactus, the ones with the round pads, and it was behind her head. And there's a ton of these round pads and some flowers. And it was so distracting. It was hard to focus on what she was saying. So make sure you pick a virtual background that isn't super distracting. I mean, if you have a gorgeous mountain scene and that's what you want to project, great. Just make sure it's not so distracting. People will be looking at the mountains and not paying attention to what you're saying. And the other thing to check is, and you can do this by going on Zoom, setting yourself up a meeting, making an account on Zoom, set yourself up a meeting and have it just be you, put your virtual background up and make sure that your camera on your computer doesn't focus on the background and not on your face. And that happens sometimes with virtual backgrounds, is your face will be blurred and the background will be sharp, and you don't want that. So play around a little bit with virtual backgrounds if you're going to use them. And another thing, and this is not really background, but when you're on a Zoom or other video presentation mode, sometimes people put up just their publicity photo, a static photo, instead of having their video feed on. And that's fine. Although I will tell you, when I've been on a webinar or teaching a webinar, seeing just the static photo for 40 or 45 minutes is really kind of off-putting. So I wouldn't use a static photo, but you use a virtual background if you want, if that's something you need. Just make sure it's not busy and that your camera is actually focusing on your face, not on the background, because you don't want your face to be blurred in the background in focus. Okay, sorry to forget about questions.
I
I
have
won't
one
do
more
that.
question for you that just came in. We have a question about whether you have advice for people who wear glasses.
Okay, we'll do that in just a moment because I'm not wearing mine for a good reason. So a couple of do's and don'ts about lighting, and then I'll show you what happens with glasses. Do illuminate your face from in front of you, preferably with a source you can adjust to a soft soft end of the Kelvin range of colors, which is a lower number than a higher number, not daylight, not bright blue daylight. And you can turn the intensity down to what works for you. And I'm going to show you a light source in just a minute. Don't sit with a bright light behind you. That's what makes you backlit and put your face in shadow, unless you have a compensating light to bring out your face. Don't sit under a light fixture that casts shadows downward, because that'll shadow your eyes and bring out the shadows on your face that you may not want to show off. Don't have reflections on your glasses, and watch what happens right here. Oh, not so good. So you either have to have the kind of glasses that have anti-reflective coating, or you have to not wear them. And what you're seeing in the reflection is actually my light source. So the reflection you're seeing is actually the light source I have that gives my face that even lighting. So my problem with wearing glasses on Zoom is that then you have to really fuss with what direction your lighting comes from. And it may be that you can work with lighting on the side that won't reflect on the front of your glasses, or it may be that you just do what I do, which is, these are bifocals. So I just put them up on top of my head like this, or I just don't wear them at all. But that's an issue, definitely. And by the way, unless you really want to come across as super cool and you don't want people to be able to see your eyes, don't wear your sunglasses on Zoom. I think that's a definite no-no. It's not very friendly. Also, do soften bright light from nearby windows or doors by closing curtains or blinds, as I have done with the window behind me. I pulled down the cellular shade. And here's a better photo of what happens to me when I have my glasses on during a Zoom call. There I am, and I haven't pulled my blinds down. I don't even have my light source in front of me, and you can see the reflection off my glasses. Not a good look. If there's no way to adjust your light so that it doesn't reflect off your glasses, then you got to take them off, because otherwise people are going to be distracted by the reflection. So a couple of other lighting things on the upper right is looking at my sunroom windows. You can see that that's an enormously bright light source, even on a cloudy day. So I pull the blinds down, and you can see the blinds partly down. And when I talk about light sources, let me show you what I mean. And then the lower right picture shows the back of it and what it is. This is my light source. It's on a little tripod, but you can get these that just attach to, I'm sorry, it's getting stuck on me, the tripod. You can get these that just attach to the back of your screen. And this is a 3200 Kelvin, which is indoor light, a softer light, like soft white light bulbs. And I have it at 25% intensity. So I don't have it up really bright, and it is literally sitting just behind my screen. And that is what keeps the light even on my face. And the lower right picture shows what it is. And I don't want this to be a commercial, but just so you know, this is a Lume, Lume cube. And I only say that because it's the only one I know that's really not expensive. The caveat is it's like $70, I think. But it also allows you to adjust the light. You can get them for super cheap on Amazon, not Lume cubes, but you can get super cheap versions on Amazon. I don't know that they come with diffuser covers like this one does. And I don't know that the light is actually, the color temperature and the intensity are adjustable. And I've heard bad things about how long they last. So I tend to go for a Lume because they have a really good reputation and they work. You can get fancier ones. You can get ring lights, which are very cool, for more money. I would stick with something in the $50 to $70 range because you're getting something that will last and you can adjust. But I would make sure that it has adjustability, and I will show you on mine. And you can't probably read this on the screen, but there's a little readout on the back that shows you what the color temperature is and what the intensity is. And I have a little dial on the side to adjust that. It also shows me how many hours it has left on its battery, and it's rechargeable, and I just plug it in to a USB port. So again, I'm not trying to do a commercial. This is just a light that I know that works for me. And you can feel free to look around, but it's worth investing in a decent light. It makes a big difference in where you can, just where you can sit and be well lit. And lighting is super important. Okay, lighting questions before we move on?
It
Liz,
looks
are
like
there
the glasses question was the only one we had, so I'll keep an eye out.
Okay. And I wish I had a better solution on glasses. It helps if you have anti-glare reflective coating on your glasses. Mine theoretically have that, but actually they're old enough that apparently it no longer works. Although if I turn away from my light source, or if I put my hand over it, no, you can still see my windows reflected. So yeah, no. I have not discovered a good solution with glasses, other than probably when they were new, the anti-glare coating worked better. So, but my solution has just been to take them off because I can see my screen without them off. So that's what I do. Okay.
I have one more question that just came in. Is the light source attached to the camera?
Oh, so this light source is in fact independent. It can be my camera. I'm using my camera on my laptop. So this is just an independent light source on a tripod. It can just attach, it has a little suction cup attachment that would attach it to the back of my screen. So it'd be right next to my camera. So if you're using a separate video camera, then you can have your light source wherever you want it. I'm just using the video camera on the top of I have a MacBook Air laptop, and I'm using the video camera that is right smack center in the upper rim of the screen. So the light source is not attached to it, but it can be attached to the back of the screen in a way that it's right next to the camera. And it's also tiltable. You can tilt it and angle it for different things. I have it on a tripod because that makes it simpler for me to move it around to where I need it in different situations. Okay, we good on lighting?
Yes, good to go.
All right, on to audio. Audio is a little trickier than we realize. What I'm doing right now is just using the audio from my laptop. Some people's laptops do not have very good audio. Some people's tablets don't have very good audio. If you're using a tablet, it can sound, you can get an echo. If you're sitting next to someone who is also using their laptop with audio, you can get interference from them. So before you get on any kind of video platform, I would suggest that you check your audio. And one way to do that is actually to try recording a voice memo on your phone, again, holding it where your microphone is for your computer, and then listen for echo and background noises. I am actually sitting in the center of the great room in my house with the kitchen behind me. And so that would be a high traffic area for doing webinars, which means I kick my household members out or I make them go in the back of the house when I'm on a webinar. In this case, I sent my partner and our elderly dog to the barn with the horses, bad me. But I didn't really want the noise of them coming in. I didn't want them coming and going behind the video stream, and I didn't want the noise of them. So that's something to really pay attention to. First, how good the quality of the sound is with if you're just using the audio from your laptop or your computer or your tablet, and then where you are in the house and whether you get echo, whether you're going to get other ambient noises from other people in your office or your house or wherever you're going on the webinar from. So pay attention to that, because how you come across really makes a difference. And I would say try out your sound and listen for echo and background noises. One better step is to use earbuds. So I could have my earbuds in, except for some reason right now they are not working well with my computer. So I don't have them in, but they will. Any kind of earbuds you have a mic, and they also have audio coming directly in your ears, so you can hear yourself better and you get better sound quality. If you want to step up from that, if you're going to be doing a lot of work on Zoom or you're thinking of podcasting, invest in a mic that plugs into your computer and headphones to give you, so you hear yourself and you hear the audio coming out of your computer directly through the headphones. So here's my particular earbuds just right there to show you what earbuds look like. On the top right is a small podcasting mic that I have that I use that plugs directly into my computer, and it's optimized for voice. If you do get a mic, you want to get a mic that's optimized for voice, not for talking. Not for music or other kinds of sound input. You want one that is it's called a cardioid pattern for the technical thing, that just is aimed at picking up the voice in front of it and not the background sounds around it. On the lower right is my setup when I do audiobook recording. It looks a little crazy, but it's a bigger mic on a stand, and in front of it is what's called a spit screen in the industry, which keeps the mouth noises from hitting the mic. And the foam around it is to keep echoing from happening, because the studio where, in this case, I was recording an audiobook, one of my other books, had a concrete floor and plaster walls and windows all around, which makes it very echoey for sound. So I have that foam thing to keep, to dampen the ambient sound, to keep the echo from happening. So on sound, let me just say again, use the voice memo on your phone, see what that sounds like. Hold it out at the approximate distance where the mic on your laptop is, and see if you're getting an echo, see if you have background sound. Just check on that, because it's really distracting if your sound quality isn't good. Questions about sound?
Yes, we have 2 questions. So I'll give you the first one and then I'll come back in. And if anybody else has some questions, throw them in the Q&A or the chat box. So the first question is, I was watching a Zoom and thought I saw the person had what looked like a finger mic. Does that exist? If so, would you recommend?
Yes, but I wouldn't use one, actually. There are a bunch of small mics available. I wouldn't use a finger mic for a couple of reasons. And one is the ambient sound problem. They're not well shielded to keep background sound and echo from happening. But if I was investing in a mic, I would probably, and again, this is not a commercial, but they are sort of the go-to mics for Zoom and podcasts and that kind of thing. I would go to BLU microphone site, BLU, and look at their different ones. The top right picture is a blue mic, and it's probably one of their smallest and least expensive. It's called a Raspberry, and it's probably less than $100, maybe $50. I don't remember, but I would look for a small mic like that if you're looking for a small portable kind of mic. But I would make sure again that it's optimized for voice recording, because otherwise you will get a lot of it has to be optimized to be aimed directly at your mouth. and not pick up any of the sound around, so that it's not getting any of the echo off of hard surfaces around you. So if you're going to invest in a mic, I would invest in one that is made for podcasting, basically, and look for a portable podcast mic.
And the
Okay.
second question you actually answered during your response to that. Someone was just asking what the brand of the mic was. So
Yeah.
So we can move on.
Any others?
Nope, that's it.
Okay. So I don't like to get into, makeup appearance stuff, but there are some rules about what you wear when you're podcasting, and it's easy to violate them. And again, not podcasting, but when you're on Zoom, you want to be comfortable, but you also want to look like the you want to present. So you want to pay a little attention to what you wear. And if you've ever been on television, if you've ever been interviewed on television or had a TV appearance of any kind, they probably gave you some rules about what to wear. And they're the same ones for video platforms, because it's a moving image and you're capturing a bunch of digits at once. And there are certain things that just don't come across well that way. So I say, wear whatever makes you feel good, what makes you feel like the person you want to present, that makes you feel professional or comfortable or warm and approachable or whatever, intimidating if you want to be intimidating, but won't distract from your message. So one of the rules about moving images and clothing is no bold prints or eye-dazzling fabrics, because they are super distracting and they don't always come across well in the high definition world of video broadcasting. In fact, some fabrics can actually be so dazzling that they give people headaches. They overstimulate your visual nervous system in your temporal lobes of your brain, and literally can be so distracting that people can't focus on you. Things that, the obvious stuff, like don't wear super plunging necklines unless that's what you're presenting. Try not to wear jewelry that's super distracting, that will make noise or throw reflections. Your favorite pair of really dangly crystal earrings that throw rainbows when you move, maybe not so good on video, because maybe you don't want people looking at your earrings. They actually want them to be listening to you. Maybe not the too bright scarf. In the webinar I was in last night, which is a bunch of scientists presenting, one of the women presenting was wearing this beautiful burgundy scarf that she had folded around her neck in a way that her dark t-shirt underneath didn't show. But it was such an eye-catching color that I bet every one of the 100 people on that webinar was looking at the gorgeous color of the scarf and paying less attention to what she was saying. So be a little careful about just how bold or how bright your clothing choices or your earring choices or your whatever choices are. It's probably not the time to dye your hair neon green right before you go on Zoom, unless that's what you want to present. Just be you without maybe distracting from your message. Also, nothing that will make noise. And that's especially a problem if you're wearing earbuds. I've had webinars where the presenter was wearing earbuds and some kind of earrings that clanked against the earbuds. So we were getting earring clanking noise all the time. Or they were wearing a bunch of bracelets, lots of clinking there. Or, those wallets that come on a chain. I know guys who habitually jingle the change in their pockets or jingle a chain on their wallet. And you can hear that when you're presenting. It's not a good thing to have happen. So here are some don't do's. And these are all snapshots of me. The vertical picture is me with Terry Tempest Williams after a book signing, and we're giving each other a big hug and getting a selfie. And I am wearing what you should never wear on video. I am wearing a boldly flowered sweater over which is a boldly polka dotted scarf. Not so good on video. Don't go there. It was a book signing. I wasn't thinking about having my picture taken. That's my excuse. The top right is years ago, my stepdaughter and I just hanging out, and she's wearing what you should never wear on video. Not so much on the bold striped t-shirts and the cat eye glasses with rhinestones, unless it's what you want to present. But again, think about what's going to be distracting to your viewers. Lower right is me with the host of PBS's Victory Garden, Roger Swain, at a conference we were both presenting at. And look, we're both wearing bright things that are distracting. His red suspenders, which are a trademark, and my really super saturated burgundy scarf, which kind of goes with my lipstick. But again, a little distracting for a Zoom presentation. So just pay attention to what you look like, sit in front of the video camera and go, all right, what do I look like? Are these earrings too big and distracting? Is the scarf really maybe a little too teal? I'm in Santa Fe, I can get away with it. Just give that same attention to what you're wearing as you do to your background, to your lighting, to your audio, so that again, your clothing, your jewelry doesn't distract from what you're presenting. Questions about that?
So I have one question about clothing and one late question about sound. So do you want to back up to sound?
Let's back up to sound first.
Okay. So the sound question is, what if you were speaking, then playing music? Say you're going to drum or rattle. Do you have any sound and mic suggestions?
Yes, I would go for a blue BLU mic, but they're Yeti, YETI, which has a switch on the back that can go from cardioid pattern, which is the speaking, to I forget what the other pattern is, but it's optimized for music. So you could literally reach around the back of your mic after you're done talking, switch to the other pattern, and you'd get really great. It would pick up all the subtleties in the music. So it's a Yeti, YETI, as in, yes, the Abominable Snowman from Blue microphones. And I think it probably runs, last I looked, it might've been $140, something like that. It's not a cheap mic. It's actually the one that was on my, on the little setup for audiobook recording, but you can't really see it behind a split screen, but it's a classic shaped microphone. And it just has a switch to switch between recording patterns. And they are really well reviewed. A lot of musicians use them. A lot of podcasters use them. Wonderful mics. So, okay.
All right. And my second question is, it's specifically about, what about black and white clothing?
So look at what happens to the sweater that I'm wearing in the picture with Terry Tempest Williams, my fellow author. You notice how bold this is actually a white sweater with a kind of pen and ink, bold pen and ink pattern. And you notice how bold the contrast is between them. Black is fine. All black is fine. Terry's wearing a black, looks like a Mexican serape type thing with a thin white pinstripe, kind of a variation on the pinstripe suit, jacket. And that looks good. All black can be pretty dark. All white can be pretty bright. So I would just play a little bit with how contrasty it is if you want to do black and white together, and what it looks like when you're on video. Again, you can set up a Zoom account if you don't have one, the free accounts, and open up Zoom and I forget what the command is, but you basically make yourself a meeting of just yourself, turn on your video camera and see what you look like and play with that. You can have it up. With a free account, you can be sitting there in front of your camera, get up, change into a different outfit, get up, change into a different outfit, and do that for 40 minutes before they cut you off. 30 or 40 minutes, I forget which. So you can have quite a bit of time playing in your own personal video dressing room. I wouldn't change on camera if I were you. It's my only advice. But just play with it. Black is great, but it can be just too dark. And depending on how light your skin is, I'm very pale skinned. When I put on black, I look a little bit like I've already headed for the casket. So just, look at yourself and see whether it's the effect you like. And just again, the idea is not to distract from the message you're presenting. Okay, other questions?
No other questions at this time.
All right. Then we are going to go on to our very last segment, which is what I'd like you to remember to do before, again, you turn on the video camera. This is your own personal centering exercise. And I'm going to actually shift in my chair to do it because I was sitting with my legs crossed. So I want you all to sit wherever you're sitting with your feet on the ground. If you can't reach the ground, it would be great if you had a little footstool or something under you, but I want you to be sitting straight without your legs crossed. And you notice how I just straighten myself up, straighten your back, plant both feet on the floor, sit up straight. and feel yourself grounded. You're probably not sitting outside with your bare feet on the ground, but let's just feel as if the floor beneath our feet is the ground. And imagine the energy from the earth flowing up through your feet, just flowing in a way that gives you strength and clarity, helps you be present in the moment, helps you be you, and kind of wiggle your feet around a little. Your feet actually have 4 corners in a way. There's 2 on the front of your feet on either side of your toes and 2 on the side of your heels. So play around a little and feel yourself grounded that way so that all 4 corners are touching the earth, and just sit up straight and then take a deep breath through your nose and breathe all the way into your belly till you feel your belly expand. If you need to put your hand on your belly to feel that, do that and hold it for a few beats, and then exhale fully, pulling your belly in to push out every last bit of air. You feel that breath, and do you feel your spine lengthen? You should feel your spine lengthen when you do that. You can see me wiggling a little to feel that lengthening in my spine. So breathe in all the way into your belly, hold it for just a few beats, and then push it all out. Each time you do that, you're kind of focusing yourself in your center, in your body, and with your feet flat on the floor, you're grounded in the earth. So you're grounded in the energy that is around us. One more deep breath, hold it, let it out, exhale all the way, and then you're ready. Smile or look serious or whatever you want your expression to be, turn on your video and have fun. So you're ready now. You're centered. You're ready to go. All right. That is all I have for today, but I do want to kind of chat with you. So I'm going to leave the screen on. So if you want to write that down, although you'll be able to view the video later, that actually is an exercise I learned from a Tony Award-winning actor when I was working with young writers at Young Arts in Miami. And he had us come stand up behind the lectern and do that before we did our readings. Just stand there, take a moment, plant your feet on the floor, stand straight, feel those 4 corners of your feet, feel the energy in the earth coming up through you, and then breathe a couple of times before you ever open your mouth and start your reading. And it was fascinating to see how these young writers, they were high school age writers, working with mentors before being nominated for President's Scholars Medals in the arts. So they were fabulous writers from all over the country. It was fascinating to see them. They come up to their first big reading before important people, and they come up to the lectern and they're all nervous and their hands are probably shaking. And the moment Doug took hold of him and said, and actually, I should tell you, Robert Redford was watching this exercise. So turn up the anxiety a bit. Just watching them plant their feet on the floor, take a moment to just feel the 4 corners of their feet and feel the energy coming up, and take 3 deep breaths, and their voice changed. Their voices dropped down from right up here where you're talking in the back of your mouth to down into their throat, and they projected better. They read better. It's a really powerful exercise. So practice that a little before you get going on any video call. All right, questions? More things you want to know from me?
I don't have anything yet, but maybe we can give them just a minute to type anything. Any last thoughts?
We've got plenty of time here. So, and I'm your captive presenter. So take advantage of me. Anything you want
Nope,
to know.
I totally lied to you. I'm realizing I was not scrolling. So let me read for a second, and there are many questions. Give me 1 second.
Right. And by the way, before Liz starts on the questions, I want to tell you, I even thought about the glass I picked up with the water in it. This is one of my really pretty art glass, hand-blown glasses. And I picked that because it really, this might sound shallow, but it goes with my outfit. So it's less distracting when I put the glass up to my mouth. That's thinking about what you project when you're on video.
All right, so the first question that was below my visual on the screen was, any recommendations about looking directly at the camera versus looking at your computer screen?
So do I look like I'm looking directly at the camera right now? It's a question and answer to your question. You can just answer.
Oh, okay, I can answer. You don't, no.
Yeah. So this is a problem that I have never been able to solve for myself. I can look directly at the camera, I am right now, but then when I go to read my computer screen, there go my eyes. The one thing that I recommend is know where your camera is so that when you don't need to be looking at your screen, you can be looking at it. And I admit, terrible about that, because really the screen is distracting. I'm always looking at the screen. So know where your camera is. And one thing you could do is put something bright colored around your camera so that it draws your eyes when you don't need to be looking at the screen. But when you're doing a presentation like I am, part of the time you are going to be reading your screen, and that's just how it is. If you are reading something handheld, I will tell you, never have it be above the height of your screen, because then you really are, see where my eyes went? Then you're really looking way up. So if you're reading something that's not on your screen that you can hold in your hand, have it be at about the height of your screen and off to one side, and be able to look at the camera, look at it, look at the camera, look at it as best you can. And do you see where my eyes go when I do that? So you can see the effect of that. That's the one thing I'm not great at. I really do look too much at the screen and less at the camera. So, and you can see where my eyes go. Look, here I am looking at the bottom line on my screen. Do you see that? Now I'm looking back up at the camera. See what happened with my eyes? So that's all I can say is practice, practice, practice. If you can memorize what's in your presentation and always look at the camera, that's great, because then you are looking directly at your viewers.
All right, the next question is, how do you keep from hissing or making sound when reading from a book?
Did you see? Okay, I'm in a page back. Missed it. Look at the lower right photograph. See that round screen that's in front of the microphone, that round black screen? That is called a spit screen. And that is what keeps you from hissing or spitting when you're reading from a book. To use that, you have to have a standalone microphone, and the spit screen costs you like $10. So it's not a big expense, but what that screen does, it's just netting, and it literally interrupts the high part that comes across as hissing or spitting or popping your peas. All those are problems that a spit screen takes care of, but to use it, you do have to have a standalone mic. The other thing you can do, sometimes hissing or spitting is caused by, whoops, sorry, wrong one. Sometimes hissing or spitting is caused by having a dry mouth. I actually have dry mouth syndrome, so I'm really well acquainted with this. You could have a cough drop to keep saliva going in your mouth so you don't get the clicking noises from your tongue or things like that. But the best thing to do is have a standalone mic and a spit screen.
All right, the next question piggybacks a little bit on the reading question, which was, where is the best place to look when you're presenting?
If you can look straight at the camera, that's absolutely best. And again, watch my eyes. So I'm looking straight at the camera right now, which means it comes across as I'm looking straight at you. I am not looking at the screen. Here I am looking at the screen. See the difference? And that's important for your audience to feel like you're looking at them. And that's something I'm bad at. I will say that right away. And again, if you find it hard to look at your camera, put a Post-it note right next to it with an arrow directly at where the camera is so that you remind yourself to look there. That's something I could do. I haven't, but I may do it now that I thought about it. That's that.
All right, next question is, someone told me there's a button to soften your image on Zoom.
I don't know that. I would say the easy answer to that is, if there is, I would Google button to soften image on Zoom and see what you get, or go on YouTube and see if there's a video about Zoom effects. I will admit that that's something I know nothing about.
One of the other people in the meeting said that it's in the video settings. So maybe add that to the Google search. So feel.
Yeah.
The next question is, any tips about what recipients can do? Hang on, I'm sorry, I didn't understand that question. I'm going to move on to the next one and then I'll read that one better. My eyes often looked closed. Not sure how to fix that.
Your eyes often look closed. So play around with the angle of your screen. So watch what happens with me, and play around at where you're looking. So if I go, if I have my screen slanted way up, I'm seeing a different view of my eyes. Also, that could be a lighting issue. And some of us have brow ridges that I do. Here's what I'd look like if I got a facelift. Some of us have brow ridges that droop a little over our eyes, and that makes it harder to make them look like they're wide open. But that sounds kind of like it might be a screen angle or a lighting problem. If it's not, then you're going to have to practice looking at the camera and making your eyes open wide, and watch what happens if I lift my eyes open wider. I don't want to look like I'm surprised all the time, but you might play around with whether there's some facial expression things going on too. And here, that was just a reason to not have your Zoom session right in the middle of your house. That was my partner coming back from the barn, and our dog racing behind, wanting to get outside. So this is why you don't have your Zoom sessions where you can have household members walking through behind you, unless it doesn't bother you. It doesn't bother me, but that could be an issue for some presentations. All right, more questions?
One is more of a request, where someone said that you mentioned recording your own book, and so they're hoping that maybe at some point in the future you might consider offering a class or doing a webinar on that process.
Yes. Yeah, that would be a good webinar for SCN to do, in fact, I think. So we'll definitely take that into consideration, I think, Lynn and Liz, yes. And that segues into my commercial. The screen that's up now is the cover of my new book, my forthcoming book, Bless the Birds, Living with Love in a Time of Dying. And which I hope to do the audiobook recording for myself. That will depend on whether the audiobook company thinks my voice is good enough or not. So I will say about audiobook recording, it will take a lot more time than you imagine. It will be grueling, and you will learn a lot about reading. It's not a simple thing. I find I can read for maybe 45 minutes or an hour before I start losing the cadence and tone I need in my voice. When you are narrating an audiobook, you don't have to be an actor. In fact, I'm not always fond of the ones done by actors. You don't have to, imitate different voices, but your voice does have to be the road signs for the reader. So you have to indicate when the action is picking up, when the action is slowing down. You have to use pauses, you have to use tone of voice. You have to be able to use your voice as basically stop and listen carefully here. This is a little bit complicated. Here we're rushing into some action there. So you have to be able to vary the tone and cadence and rhythm of your voice in a way that keeps readers interested, because your voice is the only thread they have to keep them engaged. So it can be a really grueling experience. When I did the audiobook recording for my previous memoir, Walking Nature Home, I want to say it took me 3 weeks to read your average length memoir, 75, 80,000 words, 220 or so pages, because I could only read for about an hour at a time before I lost the tone and cadence, and because errors happen. when you're reading your own work or someone else's work, you sometimes skip over words. So you have to stop. You go back, pick up the thread where you were before the error, reread, and then you or the audio engineer will go in and take out the error part and splice those two parts of the recording together. So it's hard work, but it's really great. I can tell you, I love doing it. You just have to allow the time and allow the learning curve, time for the learning curve. So, other questions?
I have one more question for you. If anybody else has one, throw it in the chat box now. But one more question for now is, what about standing up to present?
If you're comfortable doing that, and depending on how long the presentation is, yes, go for it. But again, you're going to have to find a height for if you're presenting with a tablet or a computer. So look at what happens if I stand up. I'll just stand up. And now I'm holding my laptop in my hand and the backdrop changes. So I'm standing up and I'm actually holding my laptop, and I'm going to see if I can get to approximately the same backdrop that I was before. I move my laptop up a little bit. You can see that the backdrop changes a little bit. What you have to be aware of, and the background changes a little bit. And you notice my face went pale. That's because I didn't pick up my light too. So if I pick up my light and I'm standing up, now I'm holding my light and, oh, this is hard, and my laptop. So if you're going to stand up to present, then you're going to need to figure out a surface to put your presenting tool, your tablet or your laptop or your computer on, and B, how to have the lighting at the right place. And watch what happens as I move my light around. You see how it changes. So the only issue with standing up, there's nothing wrong with it, is A, your physical stamina, if you can stand up for the time that you want to present, and B, how you're going to light yourself and how you're going to hold your device, and make sure you have the background that you want and that kind of thing. You can see I'm kind of going, how am I going to make this work as I'm holding it in my hands? But if you have a lectern or something like that, and the other thing is you may be outside. I've done webinars outside, and in that case, you have to figure out how to have your technology work with you outside. In that case, I would definitely have a mic, and I'd have a screen on it and that kind of stuff. So there's a whole nother set of issues if you're going to be doing this in the great outdoors.
I have another, one person did mention that they have a standing desk for their laptop, and they got it on Amazon for $25. So that might, if you're someone who likes to stand, that might be a good one.
That would be a great way to do it. Yeah.
And then I have another question about the use of PowerPoint and videos and things like that within the presentation.
And so what's the question?
Oh, I guess more of, do you recommend it, or do you think that it's more of, better to just have your face, what, any thoughts?
Yeah. Well, that's sort of like the question of who do you want to present and what are you presenting? In this case, you'll notice I have presentation software, which is actually Apple's Keynote, because I don't use Microsoft stuff because I'm on a Macintosh, and it doesn't matter what you use. The trick is, of course, and let's just turn this slide off and I'll show you what the trick is. The trick is I'm now screen sharing. So you have to know how screen sharing works. And before I turn this, well, I can stop sharing actually. But before I do that, I want to say thanks to all of you for participating. And I want to thank Story Circle Network and Len Leatherwood and Liz Beatty, because without them handling the technical part, I wouldn't be able to do this. And also you can find my website at Susan J. Tweit, TWEIT.com. And there's my email. And you can follow me on social media if you wish. So now I'm going to stop sharing and you can see what happens. There I am. When I go back to sharing, you're going to see my slides again. So the only trick with using presentation software is you have to know how to do screen sharing, and your computer has to be set up for screen sharing. And you're going to see that I have choices of what to set up. And I can screen share. I don't know why I lost my presentation, but I can screen share all sorts of different things on the sharing, but I want it to find my, look at that, we're sharing my Zoom window, and we don't want to do that. We want to share my presentation. So there we go, back to it. So the thing about having presentation software is you just have to practice enough so that you're fluid going back and forth between the presentation and you have to understand how Zoom handles that and how they handle your video image on the screen while you're screen sharing, if that makes sense. Does that answer the question?
Yes, it does. You mentioned this, but can you repeat what software you used for Mac?
I'm actually using Keynote, which is it's their presentation software, and it translates back and forth. It will translate into what's the Microsoft stuff? PowerPoint. It translates into PowerPoint, and it will play as PowerPoint software, but it's Mac's own presentation software, Keynote.
All right, I think that is the end of our questions. I'm going to pass it over to my mom. Sorry, I'm echoing. She's turning hers on.
I'm trying to get my video on. Oh,
Let
here
me
we go.
help you.
There we go.
And for you
Hello, everybody.
participants, before I let Len talk,
All
for
right.
you participants,
Susan, I can't hear you. Were you talking?
I should be.
There we go. There,
Yeah, there
sorry,
you
I
go.
had turned off my computer and everything here. Okay, there we are. Hi. Thank you very much for helping us learn more about all of these little tricks for Zoom. I actually bought your Loom Cube that you recommended and didn't bring it today and need it desperately.
Mhm.
So, but it does work very well, and I would also recommend it. Anyway, thank you. Very, very helpful. And let me let everyone know that, let me reiterate that Susan's book's coming out, Bless the Birds, and it will be out soon. And just check her website and she'll have all sorts of information about that. And we will send a recording of this, and it'll come out in the next couple of days. So be looking for that. That's part of your perk for paying for the webinar. So thank you for that. And let me also do a little plug that we will have our next webinar, which is next in April 21st. It's again a Wednesday from 4 to 5:30 Pacific. So you have to adjust depending on where you are. It is going to be presented. It is called Two Paths, Fiction and Memoir, Traveling the One That's Right for You. And it's going to be Barbara Probst and Julie Ryan Magoo, and who are both She Writes authors and are very, very good presenters. So I'm looking forward to hearing that particular webinar, because I think that's an area that I'm really wrestling with myself right now in my own writing. I also hope that you all will, if you're not already members of Story Circle Network, you'll consider joining us. So we're a sisterhood of writers and love this sort of support that we share, and also these wonderful webinars and classes and trips to Europe and all sorts of things that we do here at Story Circle Network. And you can find our website at www.storycircle.org. So give it a look. We have a new website we're extremely proud of, and we hope that you'll check us out. Susan, anything
I
you
want
want
to
to say?
I want to add about that webinar, the April webinar. That is going to be a dynamite webinar, because Barbara in particular is a really excellent presenter. And the idea of, you've got a story to tell from your life. Which path are you going to take? Are you going to take it are you going to tell it as a memoir? Are you going to remain true to your truth about what this story is? Or is it the kind of story that really you could get the point across better in fiction? It's a fascinating, there's not a really hard and fast line between the two of them. So it's really a fascinating topic. I'm looking forward to that.
Yes, I'm looking forward to it. I need it.
Yeah.
So thank you, everybody, for attending. We're so grateful that you took the time to come and join us. And Susan, thank you again for your excellent advice. And we already had some comments that said thank you, and that people have really appreciated the information. Loved
Wonderful.
learning about this. This was very helpful. Excellent presentation. Thank you, everybody. So you're getting some positive responses.
Excellent.
Well-deserved positive responses.
Well, thanks to everybody, and thanks especially to you, Lynn and Liz. You guys are dynamite. So,
Uh,
all right.
Okay.
Happy evening to all.
All right. Thank you.
Bye-bye.